Welcome to Belong and Bloom, a sanctuary for Black women to rest, heal, and grow.
I'm Marianne.
And I'm Vanetta. We're qualified therapists and coaches, and we're so glad you're here.
This is a space to slow down, gain perspective, and reconnect with your purpose, power, and peace.
Through honest conversations and shared wisdom, we'll explore what it means to truly belong to ourselves and to our community.
Healing isn't a solo journey. It's something we grow into together. When we belong, we bloom.
Welcome back to Belong and Bloom. On today's episode, we're actually going to be talking about a topic that is very dear to my heart. All things limiting beliefs. What do we do when we feel like we're not good enough? What do we do if we need to change our inner scripts? And of course, imposter syndrome has a lot to do with that as well. So I'm really excited to delve into this. How are you feeling today, Mary?
I'm excited. I think it's such an important topic that we need to explore because it shapes so much of the ways in which we show up in our lives, actually. The messages we tell ourselves, the internal dialogue that we have can either be enhancing or it could be severely depleting in our lives. So yeah, I'm ready to get stuck in.
Wonderful. I mean, I love the fact that we're vibing on a color level. We did not plan this, guys. We just literally showed up and just started laughing. I love it.
We're in sync. We are in sync.
We exude health and vibrance and, all things confidence.
Yes. You know what? We're blooming because we belong.
Come on now. I love that.
Oh,
right,
well.
should we start? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Vanetta. I was like, where do you want to start?
I thought we'd start with a couple of questions. I know you've prepared some of those for us already, and I thought it would be nice for us to start with some questions to ease us into the topic and to get our listeners to hear a bit more about our journeys personally, but also maybe from a professional perspective.
Oh, lovely. Okay, let me kick off by asking you some questions. So the first one is, when do you feel you're most confident and what contributes to that?
That's a good question. I think I would say I feel most confident when I'm aligned with my values. So some of my core values are being loving, expressing wisdom and being courageous. So those are actually our family motto is love in the face of fear, wisdom to make the right decisions, and courage to act when others won't. And I think generally in life, when I'm most aligned with my core values is when I feel most confident. So if I know that I'm bringing love into a situation that might be hard to bring love into, where people's level of anxiety or distrust or whatever is causing love to be actually a hard choice for me, if I can show up still loving, still loving people, still holding people, still seeing people, making them feel significant, I feel confident then, because it's almost like I'm living from the inside out.
I love that. Oh, I love that. Oh gosh, honestly, you've got me thinking, Vanetta. That's so rich what you've just shared there, and that importance of our values and how it shapes our sense of confidence and our sense of just feeling contented in the state that we're in. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you. And I'll throw the question straight back at you.
Well, yeah, when do I feel my most... I think, you know what, I think I'm going to take what you've said. It really is that sense of being aligned, doing things that align to who I am and the values that shape me. I think I feel my most confident when I feel fulfilled, when I am living wholesomely in my calling, living wholesomely in my strengths, and I'm seeing the impact that has. Being extrovert. I really gain joy from being around people and
Mm,
seeing the influence that I have within community. And
mm,
that sense of community really allows me to build my confidence. That idea
yeah.
of being seen, of being heard, being understood,
Mm,
that sense of real belonging, that
yeah.
builds confidence for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. And I love how it is connected to other people because I think that is really important as well. We're not just confident in isolation. Confidence has a lot to do with the people that we do life with as well.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Because it's interesting because like I was just thinking, when you are at your most confident, how do you then show up? Like what happens to Vanetta? Like what do we see in you when you're at your most confident?
So I love superhero movies, and as you're asking that question, the image that comes to mind, if anyone knows, is Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man when he realizes that he's got superhero powers and he like just struts through New York like with a different level of swagger. Like he just knows who he is. He's realizing that, oh my gosh, I've got these amazing powers. I'm here and able to help people. And I think for me that's kind of the image that comes to mind, just being so in tune with who I am, feeling really good from the inside out. Like even if I were to have a bad hair day, like who cares? Like everything is just gonna work out. There's a level of hope that is really strong there. I would say a level of faith that I'm here to do what I'm called to do, um,
Mm.
and I'm going to be able to make a difference in some way.
Oh, I love that. You just sound like you're so empowered in those moments
Exactly.
and a real sense of
Exactly.
freedom as well with that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Now I'm
Yeah.
just going to be thinking about you whenever I think about Spider-Man.
Not a bad association. That's fine.
Oh God. Oh, I love that. I love
What
that.
does it feel like for you? How do you carry confidence, Marianne?
I think for me, one, I worry less. I
Mm,
head
mhm,
and I find that I'm more present. When I'm confident, I'm so contented, so tranquil. I have that inner harmony.
mhm,
That I feel like I can really enjoy the present.
mm, mm,
Um, and I can experience what's going on around me much more. Definitely, I
mhm,
know. When I feel confident, I notice I become so creative.
mm.
It's almost like my mind feels unblocked and I just have
Yeah.
ideas and I'm just buzzing when I'm
Mhm,
confident, sure. So my
mm,
mind feels expanded, I feel contented and I feel calm. Um,
mm,
and I find that yeah, I just find that things go in more, whether it's
mm,
me reading scripture and it really feels like it's going in and it's sinking in and it's nourishing me more, whether
mm,
it's being in community with others and having conversations and I feel like I can really hold their stuff. There's something about being confident that takes away some of the burdens that come from limiting
yeah.
beliefs, or whether it's, struggling with perfectionism or imposter syndrome that just get in the way and they create this fog and
Yeah.
they eclipse your sense of self. When all of
Mm,
that's moved aside, there is a real sense of clarity. And
mhm,
I can just enjoy the moment and I can soak it
yeah.
in and I can show up fully as myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
just
love
see me relaxed.
exactly. Exactly. And I think for me, from a nervous system perspective, it's like, okay, what you're explaining is that you feel regulated, that you're, the one of the markers of being in what is called your window of tolerance, when your nervous system is regulated, is being cool, calm, collected, connected. And so that's what I'm hearing when you're explaining that. I love that.
Exactly. There you go. Perfectly summarized.
Yeah.
Can you be my therapist?
It's not going to work ethically, sorry.
Oh, I love that. Well, okay, next question. How do you rebuild confidence after a knockback or a setback? What's
Mm. I think it goes back to values really, because that is such an important part of actually having confidence, being aligned with my values. So if I feel like my confidence has been knocked back in some way, it goes back to sitting in the secret place,
Mm.
sitting in, with God and reflecting on what are the values that I have, what are the values that are part of my purpose, who am I, what is it that matters to me, because there's many things that matter in this world, but there are things that I feel like are highlighted to me more so because they're part of my purpose. So the
Yeah.
first step is always going back to that kind of quiet place to say, right, whether it's through journaling, whether it's through prayer, whether it's through meditating, thinking about, okay, who who am I? What is it that matters? What is it that I'm called to? And how do I move from this? Has this knocked my confidence because I've actually tried to, be confident in things that weren't necessarily for me anyway? And so
Mm.
therefore, do I just need to hold my hand up and authentically say, that maybe wasn't quite me? Or has it knocked my confidence back because I'm being tested in a value? I'm being tested in a boundary that protects the core value that is actually part of who I am, and I need to push against it, or what's the word? Um, yeah, do I need to be more fierce in the way that I express that value because it's part of who I am? So I think, yeah, it's identifying, is it a value that's actually truly aligned with me that has knocked my confidence back, and therefore do I, confront that even more so, or is it a value that actually is something that I'm not wanting to express in the first place, and do I maybe need to hold my hand back up and say, didn't quite get that right, might need to
Mm.
step back from that.
Yeah, I love that. I really do love that because you are very much anchoring yourself in your values,
Mm,
and it's allowing you to show up intentionally, to evaluate the situation from a really grounded place. Um,
mm.
yeah, I love that approach. And I know you always think in frameworks, Vanetta, and so I'm sure this is part of the framework that you have
Yeah,
around that.
absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I just love structure. I just love structure. That's how my brain works.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess it's one of those things, recognizing our strengths, and our natural giftings, and our where we feel comfortable. And so for you, you know that you love structure. And so
Mm,
moments where you're experiencing some sort of setback or knockback, then actually leaning into those structures allow you to feel whole. Makes sense. Makes sense.
yeah. So you've mentioned that you actually love questions. Does that show up in the way that how you deal with setbacks?
Yeah, I think for me, being able to be curious, being able
Mm,
to ask questions, to investigate and to understand, that's really
mm,
helpful for me to understand, how did I get here? What's
mm,
contributing to it? What's causing this feeling? Where did that come from, etc.
mm,
That's really helpful.
mm,
But actually for me, and I think for me, most of my answers always goes back to community. Um,
mm,
I know I need to ensure that I don't just have an audience of one in my life.
mm,
I
mhm,
can't just surround myself with my own thoughts, my own feelings, my own perception. So when I experience setbacks, the way that I rebuild my confidence and my sense of self is actually
mm,
by doing life in community. And so,
mm,
like, as a Christian, that looks like
mm,
living coram deo, which means living a life boldly, in the presence of God Almighty, being able
mm,
to go to Him in prayer, being able to seek His word so that I can get that real sense of clarity and insight about what is going on in my life, how
mm.
there, why this thing is depleting or challenging or an issue for me, and
Yeah.
just sort of spiritual respite and refreshing, number one. Secondly, community in terms of my family, my husband, the close knit people in my life that I
Mm,
trust their insight, their wisdom, and they can give me wise counsel. Because some people, they can give you advice and insights that aren't helpful, and it's not wise, and it's just going
yeah.
to keep step back. but really being able to say, look, my confidence has been knocked, or I'm feeling, I'm worried, I'm scared, I've lost my courage. This is what's,
Mm,
and for them to be able to be my encourager, for them to affirm me, for them to, you've got this, that's helped.
exactly.
And also just, yeah, just the wider friends and community who sometimes you just need someone to say, oh, Marianne, I really appreciate what you did for me the other week. It really made a difference in my life. And just having someone say that to me, it's like, oh, I am making a difference. I do
Mm,
have, yeah, that really helps. So for me, the way I rebuild my confidence during setbacks is to make sure that I'm not alone and not in isolation. And
yeah.
surrounding myself with my personal boardroom, or personal advisory board, who can step into my life and really
Mm,
give me clarity that may have been lost by the challenges.
yeah. I hear that. That's so powerful. That's so powerful. I love the community element. And again, it makes sense based on some of the passions that you have with regards to relationships, that, relationships are at the core
Yeah,
of your repair as well.
at the core, we weren't created to live life in isolation. I
Mhm.
always say solitude, beautiful. We need moments of solitude. Even as an extrovert, I recognize that it's important to have some self time. But
Mhm.
isolation, loneliness, it's a breeding ground for shame. It's a breeding ground for just limiting beliefs to just start to
Mm.
grow and expand.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's interesting that we're mentioning some of these um terms like isolation, like the limiting beliefs, like the breeding ground for kind of shame and guilt, because it kind of ties into this whole concept of imposter syndrome for me,
Yeah,
um, which I
yes.
would want to, yeah, dive into a little bit. I was reading a post the other day by someone on LinkedIn, and I've forgotten who wrote it, unfortunately, but they were saying that they have, oh no, it was part of a course I was taking on liberation psychology, and
Mm.
the tutor was saying that they've never met a black person with imposter syndrome. And obviously, as someone who's an author of a
Yeah,
book on imposter syndrome, I'm like, interesting.
yeah.
And they were saying that the reason why they would say that so boldly is because it's not imposter syndrome that they're dealing with. It is the systemic fallout of being isolated,
Mm.
or made to feel like they don't belong. And I was just like, okay, yeah, I completely get that. I completely get that. And I reflect back on writing this book on. So my book is called Me, Myself, and Imposter: How to Boss Your Imposter Syndrome Through the Fraud Framework. And I wrote it in, well, I started writing it in 2020. I
Mm.
released it in October 2022, a few months after I gave birth to my first child. I don't know why I did that to myself. Um, is
Shows
that
that
is that
you're
whole
incredible.
I
You're
well,
incredible.
it's the whole myth of, oh, when I'm on mat leave, I'm gonna do X, Y, Z, and you're like, yeah, you're gonna care
Oh,
for
don't
a
even get
child.
me started on that. I was like, I'm going to do a PhD. No, it didn't happen. Like,
Like, who's setting us up with these ideas?
I'm telling you, it's culture. Oh gosh. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, because I actually have to pay people to help me with the book, I guess I was a bit more motivated to actually get it released as soon as possible whilst I was on mat leave. Um, but the way I define imposter syndrome in the book is it's a persistent experience of um, inadequacy, incompetence, and context specific isolation. So these are some of the terms that we're talking about. And so this feeling of questioning our ability to create success for ourselves. Um,
Mm.
but what I've learned over the years, so the actual definition that I use in the book is imposter syndrome is a persistent experience of inadequacy, incompetence, and context-specific isolation, in which
Mm.
objective successes are discounted or attributed to anything other than personal effort and ability. So
Nice.
it's this,
You got to break
this
that down into.
yeah, it's a dismissing of your achievements.
Mm.
It's a there's a dissociation that's happened between what you can do and how you relate to it.
Mm.
Um, and
Yeah.
I think particularly as Black women in particular, we have so often been socialized and been raised in ways where we do all the time, but it is never made clear to us that we can also claim success in our doing.
Yeah.
You
Wow.
know, so then
That
we're
is,
stuck in these systems and frameworks that make us feel like we're not adequate because we're not being validated in what we're doing. We're not competent because people keep questioning our competence.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're isolated because there's nobody around us that looks like us, that is doing the things that we're doing, because we're so often the first and the only.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
actually, as that tutor mentioned, yes, it is systems play such a big part in making us feel like we have imposter syndrome.
Mm, that is so powerful. That is
Mm.
so powerful. And it goes back to the importance of community and how being in the right community can
Yep,
really support you in challenging some of those imposter feelings and perceptions. And then when
exactly.
you're in the wrong type of community or societal influences can
Mhm.
actually play on that. Yeah, that is, well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think, well, I've noticed that with, especially with the clients that I work with, more
Mm.
and more people are starting to come to therapy or coaching, and they're talking about imposter syndrome. Like it's become a term that people are familiar with, and it's being used a lot more.
Mm.
And what's really interesting in the research around imposter syndrome is that most of the people that have imposter syndrome are the high achievers. You know, a lot of research has shown a lot of people that are experiencing imposter syndrome, um,
Mm.
they actually are the ones who are doing exceptionally well, but they struggle to see that,
Yeah.
or to allow it to sink in.
Mm.
And aspects of it, it's like what you said, is almost the striving becomes the goal
Mm.
sometimes. You know,
Mm.
the goalpost keeps moving, and it's almost this thing of, I got to do better, I got to do better, I got to do better. And there's not enough time to be able to actually take in and allow the success, the progress, the achievement to really sink in, and to
Yeah.
know that it's okay to celebrate your win. It's okay to pause for a bit and to say, you know what, I did that. I'm doing so well.
Exactly.
Mm, mm,
Exactly. And I think it's so foreign to us because again, we've not necessarily been raised with that. Who has modeled to us? If we think of our female, but maybe also male role models, who's modeled to us to actually celebrate our successes? So many
yeah.
of us don't see that modeled at all. So many of us, if anything, we hear, you could do better. You could do better.
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting. I'm thinking about myself,
Mm.
raised as the eldest, immigrant family, low income, really just trying to make ends meet, and
Hmm.
realizing how there's almost that burden that's placed on one shoulder. For me, that burden that was placed around, you got to do well, you've got to set an example for your siblings. You know, we weren't able to, you know, parents saying we weren't able to go to university, but you have this opportunity to go to university, you're going to get a good job, you're going to support a real sense of change and open doors for this family. And so
Mm.
there's, so the focus and the messaging is, you've got to win, you've
Hmm.
got to create a way and a path for others. But the
Yes.
isn't, it's okay for you to just enjoy and to
Mm.
explore and to experiment and to wonder. There's no time for experimenting. When survival is on the line, there's no time for playing. You know, you got to show up as your best self. And so part of it is always striving for the next thing, because there's
Hmm.
that aspect of that survival mindset. And so I
Exactly.
think about myself and younger Marianne, who had such a focus on achieving, and achievement almost became a core part of my identity. Get really high grades, get a good job, all these things, that actually I almost developed a fear of failing, actually,
Mm.
fear of failing. And that fear of failing, then I think that's where the imposter syndrome loves to thrive, because
Yeah.
it's, can't afford to fail. You can't afford to fail. So you've got to be excellent all the time. But in
Yeah.
reality, being human beings, we're not excellent all the time. we're messy, we make mistakes. But when you've got that mindset of you've got to be excellent all the time, then nothing is ever good enough. And then you just feel like a fake and a fraud, and you're just trying to get by. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. There's so much that's tied into it, which is why over the years, as I've written the book and done more research, I have put much more of an emphasis on the systemic issues that lead us to feel like we're imposters. So with imposter syndrome, as people are talking about it more and more, there are 5 subtypes which are in the kind of domain. Lady called Dr. Valerie Young, who's kind of seen as the global expert on imposter syndrome. She developed these 5 flavors of imposter syndrome, so to speak. So you have someone like the perfectionist, which so many of us can relate to, where, if it's not perfect, then I am failing. If it's not perfect, then I'm a failure. If it's not 100% of 100%, then I'm a failure. You've got the expert, which is the one who has to know it all before they feel anyway remotely capable of sharing their understanding. And that's my personal favor, where it's like, for years, it's chasing those, like you're saying, the degrees, unless my name is Dr. Vanetta, I
Yeah.
failed. Or my name is Professor Vanetta, I haven't achieved. I just need to keep going on and need to keep going on. Then you've
But
got the natural genius.
can I just come
Yeah,
in there?
sure. Of
That
course.
degree thing, I feel like it's such an African thing. It's
Oh, yeah.
almost like in these African households, your degrees are your status. And so
Mm-hmm.
you find a lot of us, especially those of us who are on the West African side, there's just this thing of you've got to keep, 1 degree isn't enough. So you meet someone, 5 degrees. What are we doing with 5 degrees? We can do 5 degrees. Like, do you know what I mean? So yeah. Anyway, please go on.
But yeah, but I completely agree. I completely agree with you. But there's this inner voice, kind of that limiting belief that is saying, unless you have the papers, you don't know what you're talking about. And if you don't know what you're talking about, you're going to be exposed as a fraud. So you're not going to be safe in whatever position you're in.
Yeah.
Um,
So
you know,
it's almost a mask or a shield, or some sort of armor that we're placing because we're wanting to
yeah,
protect something.
exactly. So after the expert, you also have the natural genius. So this is someone who actually in childhood was really good at most things, like didn't really have to work hard to do well at stuff. And then as they've grown up and they've encountered more things that are difficult, they kind of struggle with doing them, not because they're lazy, but because they think, well, if I can't do it, then I'm a failure, because they've not grown up with the usual kind of training curve that most people, like, you're a beginner and then you become intermediate and then you get experience and become a professional, and maybe some point you're a master. Like, they from the jump, they were great at sports, or they were great at academics, or they were great at art. They never had to really apply themselves, and so they feel like an imposter as soon as something becomes difficult, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe that was not meant for me. And that can also translate to relationships, whether it's
Mm.
like, oh, okay, maybe I don't need to be, maybe this relationship isn't for me because this is harder than I thought it would be. But it's like, you had childhood crushes, you had childhood relationships that might have been smooth sailing. Now in the real world, you're
Yeah.
struggling with what is normal,
Yeah.
you
That is
know?
the point. That is such a good point. And I guess part of that, linking to that, is just learning to build resilience, isn't it? You can't build resilience if you don't experience a little bit of resistance.
Yes.
So not being scared of
Mm.
trying new things, not being scared of meeting with a bit of pressure, because that's how
Mm.
you build your muscle for and your capacity to take on hard things,
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. And then from the subtypes, you also have the superhero, which is like the one that we know inside out. It's the one where you have to juggle everything. So the perfectionist focuses on one lane. The superhero focuses on your whole life. If you're not winning at parenting and in partnership and in professionally and personally, you failed. And so often, so I used to run a quiz on my website, and when I initially used to get answers in, most I feel like a third of the people that did the quiz came out as superheroes. And those were mainly Black women.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, because strong
Yeah,
Black women is all over that one.
that's interesting because I'm like, where would I place myself? I think perfectionist and that superhero,
Mm,
definitely. Just almost feeling that you got to win at everything or you
yeah,
failed at everything. Yeah, and
exactly.
just learning to put these things into balance, isn't it? Appreciating the small things, the good enough things.
The good enough, which is
Yeah.
why, again, going back to, you need to re-listen to the episode on the many roles that we have. The good enough mother is so freeing,
You
because
know,
it goes contrary to everything that we've been raised in with and learned.
well, actually, Vanetta, this is interesting, isn't it? Because we were having a conversation on WhatsApp about the MVD.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
yes, yes.
please tell everyone because
So the MVD,
and then you were like, girl, as long as you just do the following.
MVD stands for the minimum viable day. And my dear friend, shout out to Melanie Peterson, introduced me to that concept, the minimum viable day. So recognizing what are the limits, what's the baseline limit that you
Mm,
want to have achieved in your day, so it doesn't feel like a write-off. And that
yeah.
can actually really help with perfectionism to a certain extent. So I'm going to take my little note card here, because I don't know it off the top of my head. But so Melanie had suggested that you do 10 minutes that's connected to some sort of spirit and body connect. So whether it's prayer or Bible study or meditation or listening to a sermon, or, maybe do a stretch and a walk, or either or. So 10 minutes that have to do with your body and with your spirit in the day. The second one is to look at the tasks that you have. Is there an urgent task that you need to do? And I'm going to say whether it's in the household or in professional life or both. Can you just move the needle forward a tiny bit with one
Mm,
urgent task?
mm,
And then the final thing is check in
mm,
with yourself. Can you do a meaningful check-in with yourself on the day, whether it's through journaling again, or prayer, or breath work, or whatever? Can you check in with your significant other, maybe being present, having recreational intimacy with them, aka fun? Can you check in with your children, if you've got children or other dependents? Like,
mm.
that's it. So spirit body connect, urgent task, check in.
I love
That's it.
that. I love the structure to it because I'm just as you're doing it, my brain's going and I'm thinking, okay, let's think about the different categories that all falls into, isn't it? So I guess that it actually really brings you into a place of true awareness, isn't it? Because if you're doing
Mm,
something that is wholesome for your body and your soul and your spirit, that allows you to be really aligned and to come
yeah,
into a where you are showing up to the day, to the situation as your full self. Okay,
yeah.
you're not showing up as your fragmented self. Um,
Mm,
exercise and all these things allow us to be regulated, allow us to be breathing in properly and breathing out, and it's great for our system and our organs, all these things. And
mm,
prayer, just allowing ourselves to connect with our Heavenly Father, meditation, allowing us to bring that real sense of mental calm. So great. And then I love the thing around actually what is urgent. And I would actually tweak that, and I'm sure she probably says this, what's urgent and important, because you can have urgent things that are nonsense,
yeah.
urgent things that are just a waste of everyone's time, or it's
Mm-hmm,
someone else and it's actually low priority for you. So actually
mm,
urgent and important, and I think that goes back to really being able to recognize what matters right now in this moment for me. And I think it's
yes.
a bit about the values that you were talking about, because if it's urgent and it's important, it needs to be aligned to something that's intentional and something that's meaningful. And then the checking in, I love the checking in, goes back to community, this idea of it's great to check in with our families, with our friends, with our children. It allows us to know that we exist and we belong, you know. I love that. And also checking in with self as well.
Mm,
How am I feeling
exactly.
about what's going on? How's this serving me? So
Mm,
important.
yeah. And I think it's particularly, like you're saying, I love that you brought this in for when we're talking about the superhero imposter type, because like you're saying, it's how do we manage the days that are just so overwhelming, where you cannot get a win in every part.
Oh
You
no,
cannot,
you
you
cannot.
know.
And especially as a mum now, oh my goodness, the way I've had to demonstrate grace to myself and recognize that good enough has to be good enough. Otherwise, it's all going to feel rubbish, you know? And actually, with that, as you're saying that, Vanetta, I'm just thinking sometimes recognizing the goal or the framework that we're operating under is the thing that needs changing. Do you know what?
Yes.
Like sometimes we set these goals, these perfectionist goals or these outlandish goals or delusions of grandeur goals, that actually we need reality to help us to reset, to reframe, come up with new dimensions for
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things, because what I do in my book is reframe these subtypes, because I think so often they become labels that we're like, oh yeah, okay, I'm the perfectionist. Cool. What does that mean now? And I've gone about reframing that and saying actually there is a core to it that maybe has been lost, which can actually be leveraged for your benefit. So rather than seeing yourself as a perfectionist, maybe your purpose is to be a quality assurance specialist. You are really, into the detail, into the quality of something, and that's great. So how do we remove the perfectionist, which is unattainable, and go into QA specialist? Well, one of those steps is creating SMART goals, because perfection cannot be measured.
It's true. It's true. I love that. Perfection cannot be measured. I'm going to get that on a t-shirt or a mug. I love that. I do love what you've just said there. I absolutely love that. Because what you're essentially saying, Vanetta, is being able to almost lean into the imposter syndrome. I was listening to a Harvard Business Review talk by a professor, I think called Arthur Brooks. Don't know if I got the name wrong, sorry. But he was talking about this idea of learning to lean into your imposter syndrome. And what he meant by that was using the imposter syndrome messages and mental scripts and what's going on as information or insight around what you might need to support growth. What are the changes that you might need to help you to feel a bit more contented? And so actually not running away from it, but going, okay, why do I feel inadequate here? What do I think I'm missing? Let me actually take stock of that. Do I feel I need to retrain? Do I feel like I need to grow my network? Do I feel like I need to do X, Y, and Z? And actually listen to it and be able to document that and then start weighing it up in real life with the evidence. Do I actually need to retrain? Or is the fact that I've got 3-4 degrees enough? Do you know what I mean? And also, in this talk, he was saying that usually people who have those imposter syndromes, perceptions, whatever, they are not believing what others are saying about them. People saying, you're amazing, you're great, you're doing so well. And they're like, no, they're discrediting it. And they're thinking, oh no, if only they knew the real me. But the point is, you've got to ask yourself, but what is it that they're seeing in me that's causing them to think that I'm good enough? What is it about me that's getting me these promotions? What is it about me that's winning me these customers and clients, even though I don't feel good enough? Actually lean into that, questioning and find out. Because when you get that evidence, you can then start to challenge those thoughts and those feelings.
Yes, absolutely. And it really is about challenging. And that's where we come into conversations about CBT. So talking about me loving frameworks, the kind of, I guess, core of my book is the fraud framework, which I learned is called the backronym. So when the acronym spells something, that it's related to. Sorry, the German geek is coming out. So the fraud framework, and F stands for fact or fiction. So bringing in the CBT tool of actually doing a thought trial and looking at what is the evidence that this thought is actually valid. And what is the evidence against the fact that I'm an imposter? And getting really into the habit of confronting yourself with the evidence over and over and over again.
Exactly. Exactly. I always say sometimes it requires a bit of humility, where we have to sometimes learn to distrust ourselves just a little bit.
Yeah.
Come into our minds, they have to be fact. Not true. Not true. Yeah.
The last subtype I wanted to mention, which we've kind of touched on, and the power of community and how this one kind of goes against that, is the soloist, which is they believe that success is only achieved if they are doing it themselves. And you know, again, that and this is, I'm not talking about, you know, doing group work at university, which just epically fails, and it is probably better to do it yourself. But I'm talking about like life in general. You know, it's no man is an island. There are ways that we do life. If we do it on our own, if we do it in isolation, we are going to miss out. We're just
Yes.
going to miss out.
100%. You know, if you want to, that proverb, if you want to go far, then you've got to do it in community, for sure. And we've seen that, right? The fact that we've partnered up and we're doing this podcast. In all honesty, I don't think I would have maybe had the bravery or the courage to have done a podcast on my own. And actually, the two of us being like, let's do this, it just gives that sense of courage and that sense of excitement. And there's something about partnering up with others, because others, they almost hold a mirror up to you and they say, look, this is what I see in you. You know, I think you're great enough for me to be able to do life with you and to be in your, all these things. So important.
That's it. Exactly. And I think that community part is a really big part of the D in the fraud framework, which stands for defense. So what are some of the proactive things that we can do to limit imposter syndrome reach in our lives? And one of them is that social support, developing a village around us that is supportive, or tapping into the village that we already have around us that is supportive, that is cheering us on, that is challenging us as well in good ways, so that we know that, you know, we're not actually being actual imposters. That's not what we're talking about. You know, if you claim to be a brain surgeon and you've never done medicine, please go and sit down. Please go and sit down. Feel like the fraud that you are, you know. So it's about having community around us that are not just fair weather friends, you know, that are like, maybe there's something that you could just tweak here a little, you know, out of
Yeah.
love, not out of trying to point the finger or being critical.
Our community can speak the truth in love to us. And it's interesting, isn't it? Like with my coaching clients, will often, especially like recently, I've been working with some clients who've been thinking about pivoting in their careers and really being able to step into more senior roles. And we speak about, okay, what are your strengths? You know, recognizing your core strengths that go beyond your skill sets. And oftentimes people don't always know. So I actually say, and they'll talk about their weaknesses. I can't do this. I'm not very good at that. And I'll say, but what are your strengths? And they're like, oh, I think it's this, but I'm not sure. And I'll say, you know what? You need to consult your community. Go out there and ask your friends to let you know what are 3 things that they see as your strengths, as your giftings, and what are the areas that they think that you could improve in, or you could do better in leaning into those strengths. And then you've got the proof, you've got the evidence, you know. And sometimes friends will tell you, look, you're amazing at this, not so good at this, invest your time well in this area. And that's and that's great.
Yeah, it's powerful. Absolutely. The power of community, it's not to be underestimated at all. At all.
And you know what's really interesting with that, when we think about our unique differentiator or selling point or identity, is actually, it all goes back to what is the thing that brings us a real sense of fulfillment. That authenticity is so key. And oftentimes, and we see this, you and I see this, Vanetta, through our counseling work and our coaching work. When we work with our clients, a lot of our time is spent helping them to know their story, helping them to build a real sense of awareness of who they are, where they've come from, where they want to go. Because when you're able to truly know yourself, that's when you know how you want to show up in the world. That's how you know how you want others to experience you. That's how then you allow compassion to come in for your experiences, the trials, the tribulations, the successes that you've had. That's when you become truly content in yourself, and you're able to be your own champion. You're able to be your own defender. You're able to say, you know what, it has been hard, but I've grown through this. You know what, I might not have that skill, but you know what, I'm so good at this. And so there's something about really creating time to know self, to know your story, so that you can show up fully fulfilled in the different areas of your life and confident about it as well.
Exactly. And that's what my passion is when it comes to the work I've been doing with imposter syndrome over the years, that you get to a place where you don't feel like a fraud, but actually you feel free to
Yeah.
be your authentic self, free to claim what I call authentic authority. So again, it's not about hyping yourself up to be someone you're not. It's not about faking it till you make it, but it's about, with little steps, how can I be authentic in the now? How can I show authority in the now? And how can I build on the authority that I want to get to moving forward? So the book has now turned into an online course, which is adding more of that kind of systemic lens to it, which is showing more so that it's not just about what we feel and, pulling ourselves up by the bootstraps, but actually naming and labeling the systems that are holding us back. So I designed exotypes. So we spoke about the 5 subtypes, but actually there are 5 exotypes. So these are types that the system has kind of forced us into, things like feeling like the alien, and how do we reframe that? How do we repurpose that to move from alien to ambassador, for example? Feeling like a clone and moving from clone to architect. But there's 5 of those types as well. But all of this is now part of a course that I'm going to be launching soon called Fraud to Free. So if you're interested, just feel free to check out fraud2free.com. So TO, not the number.
Yeah, well, that's gorgeous. And I think, you know what, it's important that we actually, in closing, that we take time to maybe just share with the people who are listening in and watching ways in which they can actually work with us in being able to step into that place of freedom, that place of confidence. And so maybe Vanetta, say a little bit more about your course, and I'll say a little bit more about mine. And this is us also demonstrating there's something about just being bold in what we have and the gifting that we have, and being able to share it with so that they can experience their freedom. So tell us more about yours, and I'll share more about what I've got.
Yeah, so Fraud to Free is my flagship course on imposter syndrome. I like to call it the blueprint to authentic authority. So it's literally walking you through the research on imposter syndrome, but also highly practical, looking at what are some of the ways that are trauma informed, that are compassionate, that are systemic or systems literate, as it's called. So understanding that it's not the individual's fault that you're in a place where you feel like a fraud, but actually understanding the systems that have gotten you to that place, but also navigating how, in light of these systems, do I develop authentic authority, not just for myself personally, but as I engage with the world. Because my passion is always about helping you regulate your nervous system internally, creating that internal sense of safety, so that you can then also engage with the world externally in a way that is safe for you, in a way that allows you to show up authentically as well. And so this is an online course, self-directed course, that I'm still working on, so should be launching soon. You feel free to check it out on fraud2free.com. Very excited about this. It's been a labor of love for sure. And looking forward to starting to work with those that are signing up for the course. And we'll also be looking at a live cohort at some point as well. So feel free to go to the website now and subscribe to the waitlist.
I love that. Honestly, I love it. And so for those who are listening, please do consider that. Vanetta is an absolute expert when it comes to emotional wealth. And so you don't want to miss out on that at all. And so my specialism is definitely around relationships and people's relationships with themselves, with others, and with their work. And I have a signature program called the My Whole Self Collective. And this is a 12-month experience for Black women and women of color to really be able to answer the question, what does it mean to be my whole self? What does that look like? And so we are going to be exploring values. We're going to be exploring boundaries. We're going to be exploring relationships. We're going to be exploring our whole identity and our whole being so that we can answer the question, what does it mean to truly be your whole self? And I've got an excellent team of counselors, of coaches, of nutritionists, personal trainers, makeup artists, you name it, who are going to be supporting the women on this program to be able to take a real holistic review and audit of their lives so that they can show up confidently and authentically in this experience. And I always say what's beautiful about the My Whole Self Collective is the fact that it is a collective. It's a community of women who are walking alongside each other to be able to really experience that change and that transformation. When wisdom meets with community, that's where we get beautiful change. That's where we get insight. That's where we get growth. So if you are a woman, you are a Black woman or a woman of color, this is your opportunity to truly reset, to really build a sense of clarity, to really build a sense of confidence. And when we have clarity, when we have confidence, we then achieve calm. And that's real, self-regulation and a real sense of deep harmony in terms of who we are and the ways in which we're showing up in the world. So check it out. It's the My Whole Self Collective, and you can find it on my Eden Relationships website. And I'm looking forward to welcoming you on this beautiful journey.
Yes, yes. And again, My Whole Self is such a beautiful program that I've been honored to see a little bit of the behind the scenes. And I definitely encourage everyone and every woman that I know to become part of that, because there's so much that you can gain from it. Absolutely. I'm excited for it to launch.
Beautiful. So Vineta, in closing, what's either a word of wisdom or reflection point, or just something that you want to leave our audience with?
I think what I'd like to leave our audience with is just a reminder that you matter, that you are seen, and that if the world hasn't allowed you to know that, that we are here to support in our different ways. You know, the core truth and the core belief is that you matter, that you are seen, and that you are enough, not that you are.
I love that. Beautiful. All right. Until next time.
Until next time. Bye.
Thank you for spending this time with us here at Belong and Bloom.
We hope today's conversation offered you a moment to breathe, reflect, and remember you are not alone on this journey.
If this episode spoke to you, share it with a sister, a friend, or a loved one who might need the same reminder.
And don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen so you never miss an episode. Until next time, take care.
And keep blooming.